I think this is finally working 15 minutes after I was supposed to start. Yeah, everybody, please forgive me. Live streaming is something that I love to do, but it is technically complicated, and I am not that good with technology. So, I'm glad you're all here. Thank you for being patient. Um, yeah, so here we are. This is the first episode. Episode is our live streams episodes. It's the first episode of the Watch Me Work series, which I launched in response to requests from my Patreon supporters. Um, Many of them, and I know that some of you are here, uh, have been requesting a little bit more, let's say, behind the scenes stuff. And I was thinking about what I could do to give you guys a little peek behind the curtain. And this seemed like a pretty fun and easy way of doing that. It's clearly not that easy, but it looks like this is gonna work for now. So, the way that this is going to work is that I'm just going to give it a go and just start writing some stuff. The unfortunate thing is that I cannot see uh, the chat window when I have Logic open. So I'll probably have to bounce back and forth between the two windows so that I can get an idea of what you guys are saying. If I don't respond to you, sorry, it's because I'm not I'm not able to read like everything that you're saying. Also, another quick note. This is something that I'm doing for Patreon supporters, but I thought that it would be cool to do the first one publicly so that you all can kind of like get a look at what this is going to be about. And if you would like to become a supporter and help me continue to do what it is that I do, please consider signing up. And that's really about it. Another thing that I did not anticipate is that I don't have any keyboard at all because I don't have enough USB ports. I normally work off of my iMac, but I don't know if you can see, but my apartment is in shambles because I'm in the process of moving, and so all my studio stuff is torn down. So I'm just using my personal MacBook here, and so I was gonna use just this little guy, but MacBooks, or at least my MacBook, only has two ports, and so I needed the sound card and I needed my hard drive that has all my samples and information and stuff that I use. So yeah, just gonna play by tapping on the actual keyboard. So here we go. Oh. Oh. Well, isn't that annoying? Why is the Logic screen? This was full screen just earlier. That's great. Can I fix this? I should be able to fix this. Yes, there we go. We want to see the whole Logic screen. All right, so if any of you are not familiar, this is Logic Pro 10 or Logic Pro X. This has been my main piece of software for I've been using this since 2006. I do use other software from time to time just for fun, just to like experiment, and I think I'll do later episodes using Reason and Machina, but my basic workflow is that anything that I do in another piece of software gets exported as audio and brought into here. Because this is just the software that I know inside and out. I cannot finish an entire production with any other piece of software, no matter how fun it is or inspiring. This is my go-to. So a lot of people create templates, which is probably smart. I tend to start with a blank slate every time that I begin to create, simply because I find that like templates can be restricting. I've created templates in the past, but I ended up never using them. So I just kind of have like preset sounds that I go to when I need like a certain kind of bass or whatever. I know that I could save time by creating templates, but I just don't like doing it. So I don't know what kind of song we want to create here, but I will just go through the motions. Here, actually, you probably, nope. I want you guys to be able to see actually what it is that I'm doing up here. So, I typically begin All right. I typically begin by creating a drum track. No, doesn't want to do that. Oh, yes. Maybe OBS is slowing my fucking computer down. That'll be great. All right. Cool. I'm going to pop back over to you guys and ask what kind of song we're making. Much talk, not much happening. Yes. All right. So what kind of song am I making? All right. Somebody says here dark electro pop. All right. So that's dance music. That's what we're going to do. So I have my sort of go-to sample library, which is typically Vengeance drums. I have a stockpile of a lot of retro drum synths, which I also quite like, and that's in my drum machines folder. So if we want to make dark electro pop, what would I use? DM5, yeah, well, nah, fuck it, let's make it modern. More retro stuff. All right, so this is the EDM Essentials pack from Vengeance. They are pretty much the industry standard when it comes to drum samples, just because they sound like really punchy yet clear. So, I mean, really, you just kind of go down the line. That is fucking loud. Ugh. Way too loud for my ears. I like this one. Feels kind of like it's got some aggression and some low end, but it's also quite crisp and clear. So if we're making electro pop, we're just gonna go use the pencil tool to draw a 4-bar loop. Make sure our loop is enabled. This is what's known as a piano roll. It basically shows all of your keyboard on a vertical line, and then your note divisions go horizontally. So just gonna make the velocity 127. 127 is the maximum velocity in all DAW software. All right, so now we have a 4-bar, 4 on the floor loop. It's a little hot, so we bring down the volume. I tend to try to make sure that my volume is always at, if you look over here at my instrument mixer channel, I always try to keep my volume around -9 or -12 decibels. That way I've got enough headroom to apply effects and all that fun stuff, which we're not at yet. All right, so it's called Kick. What I really love about Battery is that it has 16 different outputs so that you can make sure that each of your drum elements are on a different... Oh, I didn't make this 16 output. All right, here. Instruments. Multi-output. This ensures that you have complete control over every single element individually. So that means that each element of the drum kit has its own track, and that can get really, really messy, but we're gonna clean it up. So we're gonna make a snare now. So you create the plus, which creates a new drum channel inside Battery. We name it Snare. Right click, create new track. I guess you can do Shift T, which is not something I typically do because I don't use keyboard shortcuts because I'm stupid. All right, so we go back to Battery, Snare. All right, let's have a listen and see what snare works the best. I don't like any of these snares. Let's go to a different. Let's try Pop Essentials. We're making electro pop, so let's try a pop snare. Those are a little heavy for pop, but okay. I'm imagining something snappy because the bass drum is very long. And if we have long and bassy, if we have a snare that is also long and bassy, there will be no sort of definition between the two. You always want to have either like a short kick and a long snare, or a long kick and a short snare. That's kind of nice. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so we draw another 4-bar loop, go back to our piano roll. I always follow there's a sort of like it's called general MIDI drum assignment. So it's basically like most typical parts of the drum set are assigned by default to certain keys. So like a kick is always middle C, snare is, oh, that's C2, no wonder. Kick is always middle C, snare is always D1, copy, repeat, 3. Now we have a 4-bar loop. All right, see, now I forgot to send the send the snare to its own channel. Direct, so you go to the output, choose direct out 3/4, so kick is on 1/2, snare is on 3/4. Now if we go to our mixer window, we'll see them both. See, even at -6, it's still making our master bus, like the master output of the software, clip, which is like when it goes into the red, and that creates distortion that we don't want. So always make sure that you have enough room on your master out. Yeah, this snare is just fucking killing all my headroom. It could also be because the low frequencies are bunching up behind it because the volumes are actually about the same. See how the kick is -6 and the snare is -6? So I think it's because our low frequencies are bunching up. So let's cut out all the low frequencies of the snare. So it's a low cut filter. So you don't need any of that junk down below like 80 in your snare. And I also always roll off the top just cuz. All right. So now what we need to do is, I think what we need now actually is a sort of melody or like bass line, because that's really what sort of sets the rhythm and kind of helps you decide where the drums should go. So I think I'm going to use the Arturia Prophet. These are sort of new things, like new toys. I didn't play around with them much for the new record. I sort of bought them and they just sat on my drive and I didn't really use them. All right, let's see what kind of bass sounds we got. Okay, so the Command K just opens the yeah, opens the sort of it's called the musical typing, and that allows you to use your your typing keyboard to play musical scales. Oop. All right. What I think is a lot of fun is that the G note corresponds to an actual G on the keyboard, which I think is fun. I write all of my songs in either F, G, or A. There's a couple of reasons for that. It's easier to sing because that's kind of like the center of my voice. So, like C would be pretty much the highest that. I mean, you can go up to D on a good day, but like C is sort of like your highest note as a guy. At least in terms of belting, you can go into falsetto like way higher. But if you want like powerful singing, C is your sort of money note. Some days you can go up to D, but I wouldn't fucking count on it. So I write all of my songs around G or A, and also not just because it's easier to sing, but because these notes, in terms of like the sub bass, are much more. Let's say we perceive them as being like sort of right in the center of like a bass sound. Like it just sits perfectly where that rumbly sub bass should be. You go any lower and it starts getting inaudible. It's just kind of like you can feel it, but you can't really hear it. Like you don't audibly perceive it as power. You just feel it a little bit. And if you go any higher, it just gets kind of thin. So it's like it's probably why a lot of rock music, which is written on a guitar in standard tuning, like to E, it's like E is the lowest that you can go, so it's just like doesn't have that same kind of like bass. Okay, so I'm gonna pop over back to you guys, see how's it going. All right, how are we doing? All right. Cool. All right, still going. All right. So, makes sense to write in the key that you sing. Yeah, it's It's something that I think a lot of people don't understand the importance of, is that like you got to write your songs to your voice. Um, uh, Too many people aren't really don't understand their voice well enough to know sort of like what keys sound good and what they can do with certain notes. It's like in my mind, I have a chart written out where it's just like the whole keyboard, and I know what I can do with each. Let's say as you go up the keyboard and down the keyboard, you know like what your voice can do at those notes. And so, if you're too high and you're like, oh, I want to have, distortion with uh, actual notes on it. Um, well, I can't do that above a certain note, and I can't do that below a certain note to where it'll sound cool. So it's just like you have to be really, really self aware about what you can do and where. Um, and I think a lot of people really fuck that up. And another thing is that like in our thing, too many people are writing lower than they should be comfortably singing. Like all this sort of like really monotone singing, and it's really hard to even get down there and project in any way that's like powerful or interesting sounding. And then they're also writing in D, which is just shitty for the sub bass. So it's yeah. Okay. So is this going to be something you release? I have no idea. Do you feel that there isn't enough sub bass in industrial? Yes, unfortunately, like industrial counts too much on the arpeggio. All right, tell you what, that's what we're gonna get into now. Here we go, back to the thing. All right, we're gonna write this song in G just to be safe. We're just gonna write it in G minor because I'm lazy. Because I've been experimenting with a lot of different scales lately, instead of just like sticking to standard minor scales. But I think like for the purposes of this, it makes sense to just stick into a minor scale. I usually write with a guitar so that I can sort of like play a chord progression and sort of like hum out a melody, but my guitars are all packed away. I promise for the next one this will be like a more professional setup instead of me just like fucking sat at a coffee table with just my laptop. So all right, so that's your sort of like default industrial, say like dark pop, like staccato bass sound. Trying to decide if I want to make it something that's just like just a riff, or if it's a chord progression, or if it's a riff that goes into a chord progression here. No, I also don't like that tempo. I don't like 120. I actually hate odd numbers. They really upset me. So I've been writing a lot of my songs in odd number tempos lately just to like fucking take myself out of my comfort zone. So let's go to 119. That's just where we're going to start from. We'll add in some other notes to make it interesting. But that sort of like standard syncopation with the drums and the keys is fun. Or is it? I don't know. Is that boring? Can't hear that very well. That's kind of fun. Oh wait, something's wrong there. It's hard to hear at the low notes, so sometimes you got to take your like melodies or bass lines up. No, I accidentally hit record. That might be a good melody. And that might be a blues scale. Well, it's not minor anymore. Well, it's mine, but. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, I like that. All right, so let's just fucking get the riff going. All right, so we're gonna start on the 1. Do I play this badly? Fuck it. All right, so now we got a little riff going on here, but it's slightly out of time. You can see. So what you can do to tighten that up is hit Quantize. So that sort of like forces all of the notes to be on the grid properly. All right, so standard practice, roll off everything below like 80 so you don't get all that low frequency buildup that kills all your headroom. I don't know if you can hear that it's like cleaner already. I want to get that melody down though before I fuck with this. So let's call this just like riff main. All right, so let's get some sort of lead here. I like that. What's that? What do I want to use? I want to use something weird. I don't want it to be interesting. Let's try some Korg thing. All right, so these are Korg. I prefer the M1. These are software versions of synthesizers from the 80s that were not analog. They were sample based, which I thought were really interesting. Like I used to play these things when I was a kid in the 90s. Motherfucker. Ugh. Yes. Get out of here. All right, so we're not using the M1. I gotta fucking fix the license. All right, stupid. All right, fine. What's going on with Absinthe? Absinthe was so hot in the late 90s. This was like the dopest soft synth ever, and now it's just like it's so shitty. So shitty. It's just like look at that interface. It's fucking terrible. Browser. Okay, back to musical typing. Patch. Ugh. Ugh, I already hate it. Lead. Classic poly lead. Alright. Load the fucking patch. Ugh. Browser. Why is this so garbage? I'm trying to like make it interesting. It's just that's kind of a cool bass sound. Ugh. I just want a lead sound. Don't be gross. You know what? I should save this. Let's call it Watch Me Work. Boom. Alright. Fuck you, Absinthe. You are also not interesting. Let's go to Alchemy. Alchemy's cool. Okay. I typically just write using presets, and then I kind of like, just get the idea out, unless like the song is based on some sort of sound that I've designed. But let's just something about the melody sucks, but I'm just going to get it down and sort of like fine tune it in the piano roll. All right, make sure to go into the piano roll and quantize. Boom. I wanted to go lower, but I didn't have that many keys on my fucking... Is this solid? Down to an octave. Ooh, this will make it more interesting. Dun, 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 bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, bum ba-dum, ba ba-dum, ba 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 ba, da da ba ba ba. This is weird. What fucking scale is this? Da-da-da. No, fuck. Da-da-da. It's so hard. I never write like this because I prefer to play it because you just get the feeling better, but playing on the fucking typing keyboard is gross and stupid. Da-da-da. Ba-na-na. Ba-na. Oh, okay. Da-na-na. so dumb. Something is not right here. So I think that's kind of interesting. I'm definitely going to modify that as we move on. That's kind of tight though. That's kind of cool. That's this is kind of cool. That's fun. All right. All right. So let's just open the filter and see if it gets like kind of more interesting or heavier. It's pretty tight. I didn't expect to make anything even remotely fucking interesting. You have no fucking idea how many times I sit down and just shit is just god awful. It's kind of funny. All right. Now, what would be fucking comedy is if like it turns out that the song was like already written by somebody else and I'm just like manifesting someone else's track. Something's wrong with that lower note though. It's like not in the scale. Da-da-da. Boom, boom. Okay, so yeah. So you got to go back up to the G. Always like make sure to learn your scales and know like what notes are in your like make sure that your notes aren't clashing and that they're all in the proper scale. Like one of the main things that happens when people send me demos is that like it just feels like they have no idea what scale they're writing in and they're just like mashing the keyboard and it's just like what are you doing? Just I swear just Google piano scales and then just cheat by using that. Just like look at the piano scale, have that open in your browser, and then just be like, okay, G is in the scale, and C is in the scale, and B is in the scale, so I'm just gonna go around that. Just fucking do that, please. So I hear some sort of like fast hi-hats or a percussive element. All right, so let's create a new percussion thing. So we'll call this, let's call this hats for now. Hats, create track, boom. All right. I always make my tracks a little bit smaller. Good. And we're clipping. See, why are we clipping? Fuck clipping. All right, so when I'm clipping and I don't know why, I just select every single track and see how it's clipping by 1.9 decibels. I just drop everything, the whole fucking project by like 2 decibels. Oh, you know what it is? It's my metronome. Whatever, a little more headroom never hurt nobody. Alright, so let's work on this a little bit. Let's give it some soul. I basically go in and like fine tune like the length of every single note so that it has like the right feel. But actually this probably needs a little bit of swing. So let's fuck with the quantization. Let's hit minus dash, which basically Or it doesn't? No, it doesn't do it. Okay. Oh, because my laptop has different key commands than my work computer. Cool. Sick. All right, so let's add some swing to this. Make it a little bit... See, as you add the swing, you can see the notes are not fully quantized anymore. See the little gap between the note and the actual grid? All right, so these two notes should go into one another. Oh, fuck you. What did I just do? Motherfucker. Alright, see, that one's a little short. See, I like how this note, how the third note is a little bit longer right before it gets short. So we're just gonna copy it. Oh, but I kind of like the shorter one. That's kind of good. Let's make them alternate. So let's make the short one the second one, and then bring the long one back. Nope, you know what? I like the short one. I'll take it back. It's got that ba-ba-da, ba-ba-da, like how it chokes. Makes it interesting. No, what did I do? What the fuck? Yeah, that's the one I like. Yeah, I like the choke. It's cool. Dun, dun, boom, boom. Why does... I don't know why it fucking wants to open that menu, but it's gross. I think that should choke a little bit more. Why do you not fucking do what I want you to do? Option, drag. There we go. Option, drag. Choke now. Option. I hate working on my laptop. It's so weird. Oh. Option, drag. Good. Alright, so let's just copy these over. Alright, and let's make sure these don't overlap anymore. What happened? Fucking. Alright, so since I got totally distracted and went off on a tangent, let's go back to those hi-hats we were discussing. Snare. Alright, save. I kind of sometimes memorize which samples I like, so I just remember their names. So click HH. Is it not on this fucking hard drive? Fine. Let's just go to the library. Choose hi-hat. No. Closed. Alright. Hi-hat is... Where are you? No. Alright, hi-hat should always be F sharp. So... Repeat. Oh, no. 5, 6. I think that's no. This no. 7. There we go. Repeat. Needs to end on that. This is something I do all the time for, like, I always have like melodies or rhythms or whatever like drop on the 3. So like 1, 2, 3, choke. 1, 2, 3, choke. I don't know why I do that. I just love it so much. Those high frequencies were way too abrasive. All right, so now that we've got like a basic drum kit, watch this shit. All right, so I go to create track stack, which creates a summing bus, and it takes all of those channels and sends them into one bus. So this is drum sum always. So now I have all the drums sent to one channel that I can fuck with them even more. So, oh, here's another thing I didn't do. All right, okay. I get ahead of myself all the time. All right. You're never gonna hear anything below 20 hertz, so cut it all off. It's just sucking out your headroom. Okay, we need to make sure our drums are tuned. One guy watched my rhythm control video where I said tune your drums, and he commented like, "You stupid motherfucker, there are bands way bigger than you that don't tune their fucking drums," and blah 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 blah. That's not true. That's not true at all. All the like proper like big electronic musicians, they tune their drums because it creates way more harmony, I guess. Whatever. All right, so this song is in G. Musical typing. Bum 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 bum. Where's our kick? My trick for hearing the tone of the kick is the same as like playing higher notes on a keyboard. It's always easier to discern the pitch at higher notes, so I always tune up. That actually already sounds like it's in G. Interesting. Or not. That might be an F. Let's see. Ah, it's somewhere in between. It's weird. There. All right, so that's your G. I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it's the same note. All right, so this is now tuned up 26 semitones, which means I need to bring it down 2 octaves, which is 24, which means this kick drum needs to be +2 semitones, which means what? What's 2 semitones below G? F. Yeah. So now there should be more synergy between the bass sound and the kick because they all have the same root note. Now you can hear it does sort of change the tonality of the kick, and it also changes the way you perceive it, but that sometimes you just gotta take the good with the bad. All right, let's make sure the snare is the same. think that's also F. Let's try it. No, too high. Ooh. Oh. So now we got to go 2 down, which means this was in A. So take the snare, go 2 down. But see, since we pitched it down, it's got like a longer delay. I don't like that. There we go. That's better. All right, save it. Let's see what's cracking over in your world. Coffee. Oh, you can't see the can't see the VSTs. Hey, look, guys, I'm sorry. I'm doing my best here. I will go back and watch this feed afterwards and figure out how to make it better. What's unfortunate about OBS is that it doesn't let me do like stream an application. It just lets me stream a window. So if you can't see the VSTs, that sucks. I'm sorry. I guess since they're technically different windows, that's super whack. I'm sorry. All right. Let's just keep going. See where we're at. And I'll try to explain everything that I'm doing as I do it. Since you can't see the VSTs, I'm sorry. I'd also like to point out that my Logic is moving very fucking slow. I don't think it likes this OBS. All right, so that bass line is fucking weak. All right. Why the fuck can't you see the VSTs? It's so stupid. Dumb. Can I make that work? Can I create a new capture? Can I just change something in the middle of this? Will that work? That is wild. And I don't think it'll work. Nope. That is gross. Sorry, guys. All right, I will try to make this better for next time. But hey, you just gotta take the good with the bad, just like editing drum samples. All right, so basically this is just a gross bass sound from the Prophet 3. I think it needs some sort of, well, one way to make something sound more, have like more large, more bigger is the word. The way to make something look bigger, sound bigger, is to detune it. So I'm gonna detune one of the oscillators, see if that works. Okay, it's because one of the oscillators is too low. What is going on? Fuck this. Bass sucks. Let me go to my... I'm going to go to Massive and just build a sound from scratch. And I'm pinwheeling. Cool. Fuck. Alright, this is just one oscillator going. It's at square saw. Let's just make it a saw for now. Let's go over to the envelope, tighten it up. Actually, no, let's keep the volume envelope high. And then let's add a filter to it, and then we'll create a filter envelope that's shorter. We'll use just a standard. Let's try the Daft one. The Daft one's pretty cool. It's too high. Let's take it down an octave. Bring up the resonance on the filter. Open the filter a bit. Needs a little bit of release in the... Alright, let's add another oscillator. This one will be a pulse width modulation. Why can't I fucking hear it? Okay. Why don't I hear it? Okay. So we're going to assign an LFO to the pulse width in order to create some like movement to the sound. Alright, but make sure the LFO is not restricted. Detune it a little bit. Sound kind of sucks too. Alright, voicing. Let's make it monophonic, 4x unison. A little bit bigger. I think it's still too high. That might be the problem. Oh yeah, fuck, I wrote my bass line. C2, let's get it down. There we go. A little bit more. Ooh, and also we didn't get the length of the notes right. Can you see the piano roll at least? Can you guys see the piano roll? All right. All right, that's the problem. All right. There. There, perfect. Okay. Let's bring up the velocity. We can probably bring this down a little bit. Maybe 72. Sorry, bring the low frequency cutoff if you can't see the fucking... All right, and I'm going to roll off everything, roll off a little bit between 500 and 1K. needs a little bit more release. There we go. Now it's starting to breathe and move a little bit. All right. Let's add some... Oh, is there swing on it? Or no, it doesn't. It says that there's swing on it, but I don't see any swing. Let's get that swing going. A little... Too much? Is it enough to like make you kind of move your shoulders? All right. So now we got our drum sum going. We got our riff kind of good. Now we need to like start making this sound nice. So what I'm gonna do now is take a distortion plugin and put it, just like blanket it across my drums. So I'm gonna use FabFilter Saturn, and I'm just gonna have it set to the lowest setting, like the default setting, like just warm tape. So it just adds a little bit of tape saturation to the whole fucking. Oops, no, it should have gone to the drum sum, motherfucker. All right, go to the drum sum. There. Now all the drums have this tape saturation on them. Now, I'm going to add Waves H1 compressor to like glue the whole kit together. I set the ratio to 3:1, and then I just play with the threshold and attack and release until I get something that sort of like grooves. There's a lot of gain reduction here. It's about 6 dB. But you hear how it's all glued together? That's with it muted. Sort of pumps and breathes a little bit. You could probably even let's take down the tail of the kick because it's bleeding into the snare a little bit. Too much. Too long. Better. All right. Make sure we save it. All right. Let's get a little distortion on the bass line. I like to use just the classic tube distortion that's in Massive. Too much. Too much. All right, so I know you can't see it, but you hear that versus with it off. It just has this like kind of crunch in the top. Need some sort of spatial effect to give it like a, I don't know. Need some sort of space. So I'm going to add the dimension expander on, also in Massive. Ooh, there you go. Bring down the size. All right, so good. Now we've got like a little bit of feel going on. We've got a sort of like tonality to the song. Now let's make it interesting. So I'm going to take my kick drum and I'm going to bounce it in place, which will just basically take the samples and then bounce it to an actual audio track. So I'm going to bounce that in place. Call it SC kick. Now we've got our sidechain sidechain source. So C, boom. Now we've got an audio channel that will be the source of our sidechaining. So we then go disable the plugins here. And see how it says stereo out there? We're going to send it nowhere. This is going to be what's called a ghost sidechain source, it's just going to be used to trigger compressors. So now first we're going to go to our baseline, and we're going to choose the FabFilter Pro C. That's the sort of like my go-to compressor. Now we're just going to compress it alone. All right, so that's just with a like an easy, like sort of nice soft compression. Good. All right, so now we're going to open another one. This is called Compressor Stacking. We're going to open another compressor, and now we're going to do a sidechain. So we're going to do the sidechain source as being that ghost kick track that we created. And we're going to set the source to that external sidechain. So now you should be able to hear it sort of kind of, it's hard to hear in these things, and it's also hard to hear like on a laptop, but it's just 3, ratio of 3. Cool. All right, so now we've got sort of like a track that sounds like it's something, right? This is pretty cool. This is a pretty good beginning. All right. All right. Imperfect 2 when I get enough Patreon supporters. All right. Now the sexy vocals. All right. I would normally actually like triple or quadruple that bass, but I think for now it's pretty interesting. It's like still got enough to keep it. I don't know. I'm listening. I think it's okay. Okay, so we're almost out of time here. So what we're gonna do is create a little bit more groove in the percussion and just see where that takes us. So we're going to create an audio track. Let's just create like 2 of them. And we're going to throw them into our drum sum. And then we're just going to use some cheap like Logic loops and see what happens. All right, topper. All right. I like that. I like that sort of weird percussive thing. So let's chop it up and see what happens. So I want that weird sort of percussive thing to happen on the second turn around. So, bonk. It's interesting though, kind of like how that maybe for the turnover. Yeah, that's kind of sexy. I like that. All right, so let's go back to this same loop and bring it back in again. Let's see if we can coax more out of it. Let's try this on another measure because it still didn't do what I wanted. See, I wanted it to be here, I think. Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. Oop, stop. All right, see if we can build like a whole sort of percussive part here. Yeah, that. And then if we get this over here, it brings in this sort of stinted off time character that makes you go, huh? But it doesn't break the beat. Yeah. That's pretty tight. I like that. Watch, I'll probably hate it tomorrow, but whatever. All right, let's see what our whole thing. Don't forget to open a new EQ, cut off all the low end, get rid of that fucking junk that's gonna bunch up your low end. All right, this needs compression. All right, it might need, let's put some bit crusher on it and see if it gets interesting with that, or it'll just get gross. It'll just get shitty. Let's compress it. Ratio of 4. Bring down the threshold so it all evens out. There you go. Alright, maybe those two things can't play at the same time, but I think this adds a little bit more like sexiness to it. Maybe they do go together. We'll see. Alright, so, and then the last thing we're going to do, I think, before we end it, is we're going to add in some claps. Claps are a good way of humanizing it. So let's create that. Claps. Create track. All right. Let's bring the volume down. I think we're gonna make the claps come in on every other snare hit, and let's do like fucking 4 claps. Oh god, don't pinwheel me. No, there we go. Whoop. that clap is called bottle poppin'. I kind of like that one too. Bouncing. Ooh, that cuts right through. What if we make one clap like swell into the last one? That's kind of tight. All right. All right, and we're gonna put them on every other downbeat. But we're going to not put them directly on the beat. Fuck you. There you go. You can kind of hear how the snare, the clap comes in like a little bit before the snare, and then I think we need one more interesting one, like a shorter one. I kind of like that one. Oof. My computer is... Let's have some space. Yeah, that one. All right, so we've got two snares, claps, and one is going to come before, and the other one's going to come after. Fuck you, copy. Yeah. You get the idea. It's the... Need some sort of... We need to try that reverse clap, though. Where's that here? Here? Yeah, that's tight. All right. I mean, obviously, I'll probably go back and, like, refine the sounds and stuff. It gets a little busy, but I think it's kind of, like, on the right track. So, what we should do... Oh, I don't think our claps are actually going to the... Yeah, they're not even going to our clap channel. Clap channel. So, send all the claps. Send them to 7 and 8. And then pan. Each one hard left and hard right. Copy this cell. Paste. shorten. Yeah, cool. I like that. That's interesting. It's got a little bit of movement to it. Um, it's got groove. Obviously, there needs to be some sort of refining going on here, but usually you wanna get your ideas down before you want to get these ideas down before they're gone, right? You just want to try them out, and refining shit is just busy work. Like once the creative stuff is done, then the refining part is super easy. All right. I think this is a pretty good place to stop. This is a pretty good. I must admit, I'm really surprised this worked out as well as it did. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stop now. I will certainly go back and refine this song a little bit more. And when we pick up next month, you guys can check out kind of what it's become. And I think this is going to be something pretty cool. Maybe it'll be the next single or something like that. It just sounds like a lot of fun. If you guys want to join me for the next live stream, please be sure to become a member of Patreon. I think it's a really awesome community that we've built there, and there's a lot of cool perks and great things for those who are able to support me. So thank you for hanging out and watching this. I'm gonna make sure to work out all the technical kinks before the next one, but I hope you guys all become supporters and join me next month. Oh, play it again, please. All right, here. All right, you guys can watch this later, and just like play the thing on repeat as to your heart's content. All right, here we go. All right, guys. Thank you all for hanging out with me. Hope you like the track. I hope you'll join me on Patreon, and I will see you on the next live stream. Thank you, guys.